Okay, thanks for coming, guys. I just want to introduce the topic of trauma to you and the effects it has on the development of emotional development of children. My concern for today is this is a training on trauma, and we know that trauma affects folks in different ways. And so at any time, if you're watching the video, that I do have a video clip, or we're talking about things and it stirs up some feelings and very strong feelings, and you feel the need to leave, that is okay, and we can talk about that later. But I just wanted to acknowledge that and help you to understand that I understand this is a difficult topic, especially when we're talking about trauma with children. Okay? Any questions? No. Okay. So our first order of business is the learning objectives. Doran, can you read the first one for us?
Demonstrate a knowledge of a child's development of trust and attachment.
Paul, can you do the second one?
Recognize the effects of trauma on a child's emotional development, trust, and attachment.
Okay, and Kelsey, can you do the last one?
Distinguish a child's behaviors as relating to his or her trauma experience.
Okay, so those are sort of my goals for our class today, is to understand those three objectives when they're done. And at the very end, I'm going to ask for volunteers to give me sort of a statement on how we did, covering those 3 areas. So I've provided you guys with PowerPoint printouts if you want to take notes, or just to remind yourself what we're going over. Okay? Okay, we have this cute little girl, Ashley. Okay? And what I want you to do, and Paul seems to think she looks like me, or was me at this age. I want you to do, on this side, I'm going to have Paul and Kelsey, I want you to look at Ashley, take her picture, and I want you to say some things that that you've heard parents or adults say that are very mean or degrading or very hurtful to children in the past. And as you're doing that, I want you to wrinkle the page. And then Dawn and Sam, on your end, I want you guys to say very encouraging things about Ashley, as you've heard parents say or know that parents have done, and maybe your own life you've heard, and then try to straighten out the paper. Okay? All right, Paul, if you could go first.
She's just so active that she never leaves me alone.
She won't make it to college.
Okay.
She's beautiful.
Ashley is very smart.
All right, now do you see our picture of Ashley? We start out with a nice, pretty picture of Ashley. And I noticed that, Paul, I think you had some difficulty looking at her and maybe saying something that was derogatory, mean toward her. Am I correct?
Yes, we always look for the good things,
Okay.
even though she's hyperactive.
Yeah, so we're trained, and then even you two, the two things that you said were pretty minor compared to what we know that some folks who've abused our kids that we've worked with, they've said some really hurtful things. But even in that sense, you see that our paper has gotten crinkled, and then Sam and Dawn were trying to smooth it out, but in the end, she's still damaged, right? The effects have been given, even though they were minor things and you're good, the effects have already been felt by Ashley, right? Okay. Just giving you a little bit of background about trauma, development of, or background on attachment, and what is normal attachment and trust, and how that trauma affects that. When we're talking about attachment, the first names that come to mind are John Bowlby. Have you guys ever heard of that name? No? He did a lot of work with monkeys and just seeing, he had experience in working with maladjusted children and seeing kids that were very, would sit by themselves and very withdrawn, and some of the behaviors in it, and that sort of piqued his interest. So he did a lot of work, and especially around World War II time. He developed, he and Mary Ainsworth also worked with him. They said attachment is a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another across time and space. Attachment is characterized by behaviors. I can't see Paul here and say, oh, do you have attachment to me, or does he have an attachment with his wife? I can't see that, like, unless it was a physical attachment. We can't see the kind of attachment we're talking about. So what we're looking for is characterized by behaviors. So does the child want to be near the parent? Are they running around after them and making sure, you know, if they're out cutting the grass, are they there with the little lawnmower going, I want to cut the grass with daddy too? Or, you know, are they trying to dress like daddy? Or are they trying to cook and clean in the kitchen with mommy? Those kind of things we're looking for as sort of signs of attachment. They want to spend time, want to be with them. And the same with the parent. You know, the parents willing to put down their phones and stop looking at the TV, or, you know, whatever the billion things that we have to do as parents. You know, are they taking the time to spend time with the child and making them first? So we're looking for that. That's what we're looking for, attachment. When you have two cycles up here, we have the arousal relaxation cycle for Vera Fahlberg. She was a pediatrician and came up with this cycle. It talks about you have a child that has a need. And if you're talking about a baby, it's probably crying. They're crying because they're wet, or they're hungry, or just want to be held, or whatever. If you're talking about a teenager, maybe it's, you know, they had a bad day in school, teacher said something not nice, or they failed a class, or there was drama going on with peers, and so they have this need, and they voice that displeasure. When we talk about a baby, we're talking about crying. They're crying, you know. With a teenager, they might be slamming the door, or stomping their feet, or being very quiet. So as a parent or a caregiver, you go in and you satisfy the need. You talk to them, you diaper the baby, you feed them, you hold them, you help the teenager problem solve that. And so then you have that quiescence where it's like, okay, it's calm, everything's good, my need was taken care of, I'm okay. And in that cycle, when you continue to do that, that is building up that trust and that attachment. That's what they're looking at. The parents, part of what John Bowlby said, that the two characteristics that he's looking for is how fast is the parent meeting that need, and how often. You know, when we talk about kids that we're working with who've been traumatized, probably not a whole lot of attention has been taken care of to meet their need, or, you know, it's delayed a lot. You know, you have kids that are sitting around in soaked diapers, and, you know, it's not being taken care of timely. Mary Answorth, who also worked with John, talked a lot about social interactions. And so the second cycle over here, we talk about positive interaction cycle. And the parent initiates a positive interaction with the child, and then the child responds, usually positive, and that reinforces, you know, the fact that they are self-worth, that they matter. And she's saying that it's not just meeting that routine need, but also that social need, because we are social beings. The other part of that is that 0 to 5 years of age is the important ages for that development of the attachment and the trust to be happening. It's very important that, you know, kids are able to form those attachments. Any questions? Okay. All right, the next part, we're just going to watch a video called Remove, and we're only going to watch the first part, and after that we're going to sort of talk about it and do some, I apologize for the setup, I have to get this, and you guys are going to need to watch it on this. Can everybody hear it okay?
Sometimes someone hurts you so bad. hurting at all. Until something makes you feel again. And then it all comes back. Every word. Every hurt. Every moment. How could you ever understand where I come from? Even if you ask, even if you listen, you do not really hear or see or feel. You don't remember my story. You haven't walked my path. You haven't seen what I've seen. My past defines me. This is who I am. I am unseen, unheard, unwanted. That is what I am, if even I am anything. It seemed like the same thing that held me up forced me down. The world turned upside down, and order disappeared. Nothing was how it was supposed to be. And a heavy sadness filled my soul. Deeper and deeper I fell within myself. And nothing could draw me out. Trapped in the misery of my life. Lost in the sorrow of my soul. Unable to see the light. Unable to see the dawn. To feel. To hope. history. And I found the darkest days of my life kept coming. The blackest nights for my soul never stopped. It seemed like it was always nighttime, nightmares, and never morning. And maybe you wonder why, but mostly you try not to think about it. And try to get by, and try to survive. And all the other stuff seems so much like nothing compared to just wanting the most important things back again. Like wishing you could see your mama smile again, and hear her sing that one favorite song that always calms you down when things were all messed up. Or if you couldn't have her back, at least get to take care of your baby brother. 'Cause you know he needs you. He's gonna be so scared all alone. And who's gonna hold his hand and whisper it'll be alright to him? And who will whisper it to me? I know I am helpless, dependent, desperate. But what happens when those you need the most threaten your very existence? I've heard plenty of promises, and they all sound the same. But push hard enough, and sooner or later, they all prove to be empty. The sun comes up every morning, but do you know where? Each place it's somewhere different. It's hard to find east when you keep moving around. But at least it comes. It always comes. I've come to depend on that.
Okay. So it's just a snippet of this movie and about some of the behaviors that you saw due to the trauma. So I want you guys to sort of take, I'm going to give you a role to take. If Paul, you could play the role of the birth parent. Kelsey, if you could be the role of the kid. Sam, if you could be the role of the foster parent. And Dawn, if you could be the role of the caseworker. And I want you two to pair up and you two to pair up and talk about, through those eyes of that role, what kind of trauma did they experience and what kind of behaviors as a result of that trauma did you see? Okay? So if you guys could take a few minutes and talk amongst yourself.
So as a foster parent,
I'm the birth
she was very
parent.
distant
Okay.
and hesitant to have an attachment.
In a difficult relationship, trying to focus
What
on
was your experience like as a caseworker?
I think as a
taking care of the
caseworker, it was
house
hard to
and
go and take
providing
custody
for
of
two
the
children
child to begin with,
and
and then there were two of
and
them.
my
And then it was obvious
spouse
from
or
the movie that they split them
paramour
up, so
Right.
they weren't even placed together.
can get loud
And then,
and be aggressive,
It
and
looked like she
there's
was
always
in a foster home.
everything
and
I
then
try to
had
do is
be
not
moved
up
due
to
her
standard,
behaviors
and
that she probably exhibited.
so there's a
from
lot
the
of stress
trauma
in
that she suffered.
my life.
So
and
then she had to be placed into
then
another foster home.
It
And,
makes it
then,
difficult
like
to
she
take
said,
care of you.
Becomes difficult.
right, so
So the
it's
child,
very different. And then like she said at the end there, before the movie was shut off, that, you know, the only thing that she can really kind of depend on is that the sun comes up the next day, because she's kind of uncertain about everything else in her life.
And it wasn't, and I was disappointed, and then she was even more frustrated when she was taken away from her brother too.
You guys ready to report out? You know, it wasn't a lot of time, but if somebody could, you know, from each group, report out on what you guys talked about, what you saw behavioral wise.
being a parent is difficult. There are adult relationships as well as the parent-child relationship, and when there is stress amongst us as a couple, and it can turn into violent or possibly abusive relationship. It's hard for the parent to then be kind and gentle and providing for the needs of a 8 or 9-year-old. And
So trauma's
So to
not
speak.
one-sided, there's a lot involved there.
right, and
Okay.
yeah, and it can be. I'm guessing it can be transferred to the child, even though it didn't appear that the child was being, the ripple of the trauma felt by the wife or mother
Mhm.
seemed to carry down to her, even though it didn't look like they were abusing her.
Well, you notice who the mom chased after when the police came.
Yeah.
It wasn't the child. So, I think that probably spoke volumes. How about you guys?
I would say, I mean, as a foster parent, it was definitely hard to realize that we have an attachment together because she's already detached from the world and, her, the people that she's encountered throughout her life. And, as we were talking, it was difficult as a caseworker to realize, that she had to remove not only the one girl, but both the kids, and then removing both of them in a separate environment. So it's hard to, we see that daily, like, you'll have siblings, but sometimes they're in one care and then the next one they're in a different care, and it's hard because you see that they're growing in attachment and then we remove them, so.
Right, so she's already experienced trauma, and then we're compounding that in this case because we've split the siblings up.
Right.
And then also that seemed like that one foster parent was not the nicest either in dealing with, and her, it sort of struck me, that she took her record player or whatever and threw it over the deck, sort of like to get back, and then we wonder why kids do those kind of things.
Well, and to recognize that here at this tender age, she's already taken or adapted parenting, mothering skills in relating to her younger brother.
Mhm.
And didn't she say, so who's going to take care of my brother?
Right, yeah.
And they're being, the child's being placed with adults who can potentially be the parent, but she sees herself as the parent, and so who's going to take care of her?
Right. And have that worry at that age.
Yeah.
She shouldn't be worrying about that. Okay. So remember our lovely picture of Ashley. Okay, and now you all have a little bit of a case study on Ashley. So if you remain in the roles that you are and read our little case study on Ashley, and then talk about, again, through the eyes of what we've just seen with the video and how we can apply that to, okay, this is Ashley, she's in our care, and how do we help her through these behaviors? How do we help the foster parent understand? How do we help her school understand? You can take a few minutes to talk amongst yourself.
She had a number of traumas, really. So she, at 2 years
So
old,
as a
was sexually
birth-
abused by her mother's paramour, and then not only that,
She's been through
I'm
4
not sure
different,
how I,
or 10 different foster cares
What
within
my
4
question is.
years.
right? So she probably really hasn't had a
Yes.
chance to build any kind of rapport with any one person.
Right.
You can kind of see it.
And I'm sure she's not able to build that rapport because she has all these struggles, such as the women and like, especially with using foster parents, it's definitely hard to gain that attachment experience with someone if they have all these other things against them.
Succeed as well, and like
I'm sure the 10 different foster homes are due to all the
And
behaviors that
That's
she
what I mean,
exhibits,
yeah.
but
talk
she can't
about,
really help
um,
because they haven't
you know,
really
our
been
basic
addressed
needs
itself.
and establishing
Especially
that
at the
foundation.
age of 2,
And
having
if,
sexual abuse, that was,
if
that's where you
just
have
the
all
chaos
those,
that she's been in,
struggles.
and
And it
how
doesn't
many
seem like
people,
she's getting
how many
help-
adults
help
in
that
attendant
she needs right
situations
now.
that she had to relate to. And so
Although, I
this
mean,
is
she
just
is able to
almost a
maintain behaviors at
physiological
school, so
reaction. And that
could
there
be
has never
more
been
just,
time in her life where she
she
can
doesn't
work
trust the
on
adults in
the
her
simple
life due to the
things
trauma that she
that
suffered,
take work.
where kids in her classroom are
A
her
parent
age,
spending time
so she might
working
feel a little bit
on
more
the
comfortable.
reading skills
Yeah.
and all those kind of things.
But the fact that she
Yeah,
didn't
shouldn't
learn her colors or numbers or anything, it's kind of obvious
Yeah.
that
Not really process
an adult has
Right.
not spent
It's
a lot
taking
of
the
time
time
with her, yeah.
And how can they
You
really
know,
be
and so many
on 10
internalize
different
it,
foster
like I'm the
cares?
reason why
You know, like she doesn't
I'm
have
not
that
with my
time where she's
mom or
actually
my
sitting
dad, or
still
why they
with
broke
them.
up and all that. Wow.
Okay, who would like to report out what you talked about?
Well, we talked about the fact that she was in 10 different foster homes, so she probably really didn't have an opportunity to establish a relationship with any one person. And that alone, just moving 10 different times, the trauma associated with that.
It becomes difficult to really, you know, sit and actually learn, like they said, her letters, colors, and basic skills. You know, it's definitely hard when you have 10 different foster homes within 4 years and you're bouncing from place to place to place and you don't have those, you know, set parents or foster parents to help you. And if she's having all these struggles, it hasn't been addressed in an appropriate way. So, I mean, it reflects through schoolwork and, you know, foster homes.
And we talked about too how she's so young too, like it'd be just as hard for an older kid, but it's she wouldn't really understand why those things have happened to her, and that's something that's really hard like that would be really hard for her to process too.
And probably to think in 50 months, 10 placements, the earlier ones were probably longer than the more recent. And I remember one family at a training I was at talked about the youngster who had moved so many times that at the first meal he did something bizarre just to act out and go, why are we wasting our time? Once I do something bad, you're going to call the agency to have me removed anyway. So why waste your time, waste my time trying to answer all the, what are the things you like and what do you like to do, and like, I waste my time, they're gonna kick me out anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, any one of those things in itself might be something for an inexperienced couple or family to go, I can't handle this.
So you're saying the norm for a child who's been in this multiple placements and been traumatized by that has already become accustomed that I'm gonna do something right off the bat, and so they're gonna give up on me very easily since everybody else has, kind of thing. So they've learned this behavior. How can we help these foster parents to work through this and make this the last placement?
Scare them so.
I think it's important for foster parents or anyone who takes a child into their home to have a little bit of information on where they came from and understand that sometimes they may not have the words to express how they're feeling, so that's why they exhibit the negative behaviors that they do. So there's more to it than just that the child wants to be bad. It's a cry for help, and they're trying to get someone's attention.
Okay, so helping the parents understand that these behaviors are coming from the trauma they experience, and this is how they've learned to deal with that. Okay, good job. And just knowing that studies have shown that increased levels of cortisol happen in kids' brains when they're in stressful, traumatic situations, and that has shown to kill different neurons. So that's why we may see in the school situation that they're not able to adapt or learn as well, because some of their brain cells, their neurons, have been destroyed because of this increased level of cortisol. So that it definitely affects them emotionally, but also affects them physically on their body. Okay, we've come to the end, and we have our last slide, and if somebody can volunteer to give me a statement on number 1, how did we cover learning objective number 1?
I think I sort of answered the first one, the demonstrated knowledge of the child's development and trust and attachment. Because in our case study, it showed that the child was moved to 10 different placements. So obviously, she was not able to build that trust with any one adult.
How about number 2?
I would, do you want us to read it, or you just want us to state, like?
Give me a statement on how we covered that.
I would say, just by watching the short video, just recognizing, that girl went through so much trauma and, experienced that, and it showed through the video of her placements and schooling and, her attachment to the foster families and her siblings.
Okay. And the last one?
Well, both with the age difference, we talk about age-appropriate relationships and as parenting, doing things differently according to ages, and to think that the two sibs with being 5 or 6 years different, going through the same experience or the same environment, but probably impacting each one a little bit differently. The younger one maybe not having memories of, but the older one internalizing every action that's taking place. It was, we talk with our families about don't take things so personal, separate the child from the behaviors, but at that young age, not being able to distinguish that the difficult things were between the two adults, and that it was coming back to them because they're a responsibility. They're a responsibility of the adults, and she was taking everything as the reason is me or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty typical. The kids have been traumatized. That's all their fault. Okay, just to end our meeting, we do community meetings for Sanctuary, and if you can instead of we're doing a full-blown one, just give me one word feeling of where you're at, so we can leave hopefully on a good note. Paul?
Every time we hear about a situation, a new situation with family, it causes me concern, and seeing this little story for this youngster, it leaves me hopeful for families that can be strong enough to hang in there with the youngster and just recognize that again, it's not what they're doing, it's what has brought them to this point, that they would react to my kindness and my provision of everything that child needed, but realize that that's not what they needed right at that point.
I'd agree with Paul. I'd say hopeful, but also it's a little sad to hear stories like that. It kind of makes you feel for them.
I would say I feel informed. I think that, I got a lot from the presentation. Although, I did see the video through here in school. I still think each time I watch it, I've always learned something different. And I think, like I said, I just feel informed from the training.
Well, I would say that I probably feel optimistic. I think that there are a lot of people in the field that want to do good work, and help kids and help to educate families, foster families especially, and so that we don't have many placements and reoccurring trauma.
Thank you for your time, folks.
Welcome.